Hey there, how's it going? Lord Char 1892, and today we gotta have a serious talk. We need to talk about Armor Core 6. Now, I've recently finished the game. I did all 3 playthroughs, got all the endings, got all the weapons, did all the stuff. Right? Gave it a thorough college try. But to be honest, I don't think the game is what it could have been. I think it's lacking in some areas. And this could have been a great game, but instead it's an okay game. Now, what I mean, first let's go over the things I did like about Armor Core 6, right? First and foremost, the customization is extensive, right? From your banners, your decals, weathering, colors, all that stuff. You spend hours customizing your mech just however you like. Okay, so that's a bonus, right? There was no microtransactions for skins or for colors or stuff like that, you know, like Destiny games like that where they charge you for colors and shit. So that's a good. Second, obviously I already said it, no microtransactions. Now it's 2023 and we're all tired of that shit. Microtransaction, battle passes, stuff where they try to squeeze more money out of you even though the game's already expensive as it is at $70. Next, the gameplay. The gameplay for me personally, I really loved it. It's fast-paced gameplay, right? You get to dodge and weave, shoot missiles, blow stuff up, cause a bunch of destruction, you know, that right up my alley. And finally, the sound design, music. The music feels really engaging to the situations, right? The sound effects sound great, all the blasts, all the energy shots, everything sounds great. But now we gotta be real here. Gotta talk about stuff that really wasn't up to par. Now, my first issue is that this game only has 1 save file. That's 2023. Why does it only have 1 save file? Now, I know you could say, oh, it's because they want you to replay the same story, do all 3 playthroughs. Okay, that's fine. But it limits the value of the game. The game costs $70, right? And if you live in a household with multiple people, or for example, I have children, right? My son is 12 years old, and you know, he was watching me play and he's like, oh dad, let me get a shot at the game, let me play the game. And then I saw it only have 1 save file. I have to delete all my progress for him to get his experience at the game. For what? I should just have a second save file. I'm still gonna play all my 3 playthroughs, right? But I don't feel like in this day and age that should be an issue anymore. Okay, I guess not. Right? Because you already paid the $70. It's just for no reason. Alright, next. In my opinion, this game does not feel balanced. It doesn't feel like it was planned out well. Now that is also including the story missions, the bosses, and the weapons, right? So you begin the game, learning the game, right? You come across the first boss. Yes, the game is a little bit challenging at first, but that's not what I'm talking about. The world enemies or the mission enemies are just waste of space. They provide no challenge, right? You can just cruise right through. It's like, I don't even know why they're there if they're not going to provide any challenge. And you get to the bosses, and the bosses are great, right? They're difficult. You actually need to think and you strategize. But for regular people, you get overwhelmed, right? It's not a progression of difficulty. It just goes from flat, no challenge to a big spike. Now, for me, didn't really care too much, but for a lot of people, it's kind of a turnoff, right? It should be a progression of difficulty always. Next, we're gonna go over weapons. Now, whenever in my opinion, whenever you're designing a game, you need to think about the full experience of the player and plan out when you're going to give them certain items, just so the player doesn't overcome all the challenges in the game right at once without any difficulty. Okay. Right? So if you have, like, this game has a bunch of different weapons, and some of those weapons are a little bit too strong, put them at the end of the game, or don't make them unlockable until the 2nd or 3rd playthrough. But for example, you beat the first boss, right? Chapter 1. You go into chapter 2, you already have the best loadout in the game, which is the dual Gatling guns and possibly the Songbirds, which is the 2 rocket launchers. You can go through the rest of the game with those 2 items. And you said, oh well, it's on you, it's on the player to experiment and try new stuff. They'll just stay with the same thing. But nobody's gonna do that. Nobody's gonna make the game harder on themselves just to create their own challenge. That's not what people really do, right? Whenever you play a game, you progress. You want the best items in the game, so you're going to use the best items. That's the whole point of progressing. To me, it feels like either they didn't test how good the weapons were and they just randomly put them in whenever, or they didn't think that they were that good. But once you get the Gatling guns and possibly the needle stingers after chapter 3, that's it. The game's over, easy peasy. There's no more challenge. Now this is more about the pacing as well. Chapter 1, 10 out of 10, right? You start off the game, it's teaching you the stuff. The first area mission is kind of slow. You get to the first boss, which is the big helicopter dude or the airplane, whatever it is, right? And it's a little bit difficult, right? Because you don't know what to do. You're new to the game. You know, you're not used to controlling 4 different weapons at one time, thinking about the reloads and all that stuff, right? Or using the terrain to block missiles, or like when I first started, I was using the Dark Souls approach, right? You can just iframe through the missiles to dodge. Apparently that's not a thing. You can't. There is no iframe, so you need to actually dodge and also dodge the blast. But once I realized that and changed my playstyle, then the game was basically over after chapter 1, right? Because once I figured out, oh, you need to actually dodge, and for the helicopter bosses, it's more focused on using the sword, right? Once I figured that out, it was easy. It's over. Just rush them, go underneath, and use your sword. Now, whenever we get up to the next boss, what's his name? Balteus, I think, right? Whenever I beat that boss, I had genuine emotion, right? It was a very hard boss. I couldn't figure it out. I was trying a bunch of weapons. It was the peak gameplay of what I figured they imagined, right? You had to go back to the drawing board, try new guns, try different stuff, try different strats, right? And when I finally figured something out that worked, when I finally got that kill, it felt so good, right? So much emotion. I'm like, yes, finally I beat him, right? Now that's great, but I wish that would have continued throughout the game. When I got to chapter 2 boss, right, that flying pine cone, I didn't have the same reaction. It was just a little bit lower, right? Because by then the game had given me access to the Gatling guns and the songbirds, and those things are just too overpowered for this game. It just melts bosses too quickly, right? So it only took me a couple of tries. Once I figured out the attack patterns of the boss, which took me a couple of tries, figure out what it was actually doing. After that, it was just easy peasy. No real challenge. Not like Balteus, where I literally had to come up with new combinations, try weapons I would have never even used, right? With Balteus, I had to use a bubble gun of everything. I would have never used the bubble gun, but I had to read the descriptions. Oh, so here it says it destroys energy shields, right? So okay, let me put 2 of these on, and then some laser cannons, because I saw that the missiles weren't working real well. And that's how I got my kill. And that was great. And then I posted that on YouTube, and I was able to help a bunch of people get that clear. So that to me was peak gameplay. But after that, after the game gave me the Gatling guns and the songbirds, or then I upgraded to the laser cannons, it's just downhill. The game became too easy. Now, is it my fault for using that stuff, or is it the game's fault for giving it to me too quickly, right? So that's game design situations. Now, next we're gonna go over lore and story and stuff like that. So for me, I'm a big lore guy. I like to know what's going on. I like to get immersed into the story, right? And then throughout the game, there's some collectibles. You got to get combat logs, right? So once you pick them up, the game doesn't have a way for you to go back in and read them later, or look at them later, or stuff like that. Just like it's, I don't want to say it's 2023 again, but why is that not available? Why can't you just go in a menu and read the logs you've collected? I don't understand, but it is what it is, What would have been great is, I know it's kind of a new thing, but how Final Fantasy 16 started using the active time lore, right? You press pause and you can see what's on the screen, get some information about the people on the screen. So that would have been great for this game, especially since there's so many people, there's so many factions, and you're starting the game, you don't know who anybody is, you don't know nothing about them, so you need some context. So something like the active time lore from Final Fantasy 16 in this game would have made the game a whole lot better, right? Because then you have a reason to care about the characters, about what's going on, and then the decisions you have to make have a little bit more weight to them than just saying, oh, whatever, pick the first one, right? I didn't even notice for my first playthrough, I didn't even notice that there was a decision tree, right? Because it was a small little icon at the bottom of the screen where it said decision, and it had like this USB symbol. Now I didn't know what the hell that meant, right? It's kind of obvious. It says decision, but I thought it was decision. It was gonna grade me on my maneuvers, right? It was gonna give me a score ranking, a B, a C, a S. That's what I thought it meant by decision. It was gonna decide how well I did. But you know, on my second playthrough, I found out that was a branching, so to say, false choice, because at the end of the day, those decisions don't matter until the very last chapter. You know, it's either you pick A or B, and that gives you your ending. There's no real choices. Next, cutscenes in this game are very few. Now, there's some great moments in the game where if they had a cutscene, it would have just helped with the story building a lot better. For example, on my third playthrough, right, I was sent on a mission, and I was fighting with one of the characters, and then the people who sent me on the mission said, "Oh, don't worry, we're gonna deal with your handler, Walter," right? So I would have liked to see what happened, because once you finish your mission and you progress, next you get put into an arena. You're gonna fight the final boss, and you see like pieces of Walter's robot floating, and you're like, "Oh, I would have loved to see that fight. Why didn't I get to see that fight? Why did I just get a audio dialogue saying that they're gonna deal with him?" Right? Or on my second playthrough, I chose a mission. You have two choices, right? You can either deal with the red guns, or you can ambush some other people. In my first playthrough, I dealt with the red guns. On my second playthrough, I said, "Okay, no, I'm gonna choose the other mission." And once I finished the other mission, I just got an audio dialogue option saying that one of the other mechs, Rusty, went to go deal with the red guns, and obviously they're no more. I would have loved to see that fight, right? I want to be immersed in the story and the lore, but the game just doesn't give it to you, right? You just, I guess, for whatever reason, they decide not to include stuff like that. Because stuff is, as you're progressing through the game, stuff is happening, the world is changing, right? The power of the faction grows, or the power of the Liberation Front grows. I would like to see the background stuff of that through cutscenes, right? Even though this is a mission-based game, right? You just select your mission and you get put at the start and you finish, and it takes 5 minutes tops. But I feel like this game would have benefited if it had more cutscenes, more lore stuff, to really flesh out the world and make you really care about the characters. Now, so that's the game. Next, we're gonna go into PvP, right? PvP, online play. The PvP system in this game is non-existent, right? All they have is custom matches. There is no queue system. There is no matchmaking system. There is no progression system. There's no ranking system. There's no reason to do it, right? Besides, you just want to hang out, I guess, or just waste some time. Now, there's so many great games out there. I don't see why you would waste your time in PvP if there's no real reason to do it. Because once you finish the game, you're done with the game. Nothing that brings you or holds you into PvP. And then whenever you do decide to go into PvP, there's just no people, right? The game is basically empty. Last time I logged in to do some couple matches to get some footage, there was only like 3 rooms open, right? And then we're doing like this, some sort of like, let's say like a roulette system, right? Where 2 mechs face off, and then the loser leaves, and then another one rotates in. So when you're in that system, there's like 8 players, and you basically watch other people play while you wait around until it's your turn. I know there's other modes and stuff like that, but it's not exciting, it's not engaging. You can't just, you know, click in quick match and then you're in a match and you fight somebody 2-3 minutes and then good, you go next fight. There's no progression, like, oh, here, do all this stuff, you unlock some extra weapons, you unlock I don't know, crazy variations, you unlock more patterns, stuff for your mech, you know. And then finally, this one's also about balancing, so to say, but we're gonna talk about builds in this game, right? There's 3 types. There's the tank builds, obviously, there's the light builds, and then there's the medium or balanced builds. Now in my playthrough, I started off with the medium build, right? But as I got later into the game, I started leaning into the heavy tank build. right? Because I didn't see any downside. Normally in games that have some sort of build system, there's downsides to everything, right? If you build a heavy character, like in MMOs, right, they often do less damage, they're less mobile, right, they're clunky, and it's a hindrance. So you really gotta choose why you want this. You want this heavy defense so you can survive longer, but your matches are gonna take longer because now you do way less damage, stuff like that, or you're very immobile. But in Armored Core 6, that's not the case. You can make the heaviest possible tank, and you get the best weapons, right? And then you're still fast as fuck. You can still dodge everything, okay? And then you don't even have to try. If you put on a tank build, you can just face roll everything. You can just stand there and shoot everything, and you have so much HP that nothing can hurt you, right? So it just obliterates any difficulty in the game. That's what I'm saying, that you can say, oh, it's up to the player to choose their build and stuff what they like, but that's not how I see it. I see it, people are gonna choose the best option always. There's no reason why somebody would choose a lesser option, right? You don't go buy something, oh, give me the second best of what it is. No, you always want the best. So why would you go for a lesser build, knowing that there's one out there that exists that's perfect for the situation? So even though there is a lot of customization, at the end of the day, I always feel like it's gonna boil down to just one combination: a heavy tank build with Gatling guns and some sort of laser cannons or some sort of rocket launchers, right? Because that just takes all the difficulty out of the game. So now, what does all this mean, right? In my opinion, I feel like this game is half done. I feel like it wasn't fully balanced. I feel like they didn't make enough adjustments between New Game and New Game Plus Plus to warrant those playthroughs. Finally, we're gonna go over Wishlist. What would I have liked for the game to have, or how could the game improve so next time around it's a lot better? So first and foremost, let's do more than one save file, man. At least two. But to be honest, I don't know why I didn't have that to begin with. Next, if we're gonna do New Game Plus and enforce a second and third playthrough, adjust the bosses so that they reflect what equipment you have available at that time, right? You're gonna do New Game Plus, right? I beat the game the first time. I unlocked most of the things. I'm gonna do it again. Change those bosses, give them resistances, give them different movesets, change them up, do multiple bosses at once, add different waves of enemies. I don't know, do some environment changes while the boss battle is happening that makes me adjust, right? Because the first time I fought Balteus, I did all of that, but the second time I fought Balteus, I just walked in the middle, shut off my Gatling guns and my stingers, and just face rolled the whole thing because I didn't need to do anything else because the boss wasn't adjusted for a New Game Plus or a New Game Plus Plus. It was just the same Balteus from the beginning, right? So that's where my issue is. They didn't change him enough, but let's say they would have, on your second playthrough, besides his shield, now he calls in a buddy, now you have to fight two of them at once, or he has ads and you're fighting the ads plus him, or you know, he changes the arena caves in and now we're in a different arena with fucking obstacles, or like stuff that can come in and damage you, like arena can damage you. Or what if he gets resistances, right? What if, you know, energy weapons don't work on him, or what if, you know, bullets don't work because, you know, he has that shield and he repels the bullets back on you. Or what if, you know, he resists all slashes, you know, stuff, you know, something like that, where it changes the dynamic of the boss. So even though you know what he's gonna do, you're not 100%, right? So you at least have to try a little bit. But you know, at the end of the day, I personally enjoyed the game. I thought it was cool. That was interesting, but for the average person, I probably wouldn't recommend it. If you're a FromSoft fan, if you're into robots, if you're into mechs, if you're into that sort of stuff, you should buy it. It's a cool game. For the average person, I wouldn't recommend it. I don't see the value. So how would I rank this game? This game is a 7.7, a little bit above average. They did say that this was going to be the revitalization of the franchise moving forward. So hopefully that's what happens. Hopefully this is the first iteration. They improve upon it so that maybe next Armored Core will be a little bit more fleshed out. right? It'll have more of the features we're used to in this day and age. Well, hopefully you guys enjoyed my little rant, but at the end of the day, I want to know what you guys thought.